I think you can speed up your learning with travel PT, but first we have to understand what travel PT is. It's basically doing short-term PT contract. Typically you would need to move away from your home, pick up 13-week contracts in different locations of the country. And for those that don't know me, I'm a new grad PT who got into travel therapy straight out of school. Before going into travel therapy, I've heard differing advice regarding going straight into out of school. The whole idea of it seemed great. You get paid a little bit more, especially as a new grad, and you get to travel the country. Sign me up! But at the same time, some people told me to get a couple years of good mentorship under my belt before going into travel. Because that way you'd have more experience dealing with patients and you'd feel more confident when going all over the country doing different jobs. I'm right about in the middle of my second contract, and I can't help but think that, man, this is just like another clinical rotation. Usually clinical rotations are built into the PT program where you take on internship as part of your education. And depending on the program, it could be as short as a couple weeks or as long as 14 weeks. And in my program, we did one 8-week rotation and two 14-week rotations. And naturally, after graduating and picking up 13-week contracts, it just feels like a continuation of that. While you're still a student on clinicals, typically your workload is slowly ramped up. So in the beginning, by the end of the first clinical, maybe you'll get up to 25% of a full caseload. And by the end of the second and third, 50 to 75%, up to 100%, which is what's expected of you as a full-fledged PT. But the only difference is now that you've graduated and you have your license, obviously the expectation is for you to carry out a full caseload right away. Whether it be on clinicals or doing contract jobs, I've noticed that there's a learning curve in the initial phases when starting at a new facility. You have to slowly adapt to the rhythm of the clinic. A busy outpatient clinic runs completely different from an acute care hospital, which runs completely different from a skilled nursing facility. Even just between outpatient clinics, things can differ drastically. When you enter a new workplace, you have to learn the language, you have to learn the workflow, documentation, the pacing of the facility, and how to work with your colleagues. And in the beginning, you're scrambling to get things done because you don't know the documentation system, you don't know where the buttons are, you don't know how to efficiently manage your time or how to delegate tasks. But over time, gradually, you get into a groove. You learn how to better manage your workflow, get more efficient, and better at your job. And through this exact process is why I think travel therapy can be beneficial in expediting your learning, because you're forced to go through this process over and over again. You hit this learning curve, and by the time you get comfortable, your contract is wrapping up and you have to get ready for your next one. Let's take a look at two scenarios, both within the time frame of a 12-month window. And to make things simple, let's just assume that both of these are similar sized outpatient clinics. Permanent job for the first, travel contracts for the second. In the first scenario, you pick up a permanent job, you hit the learning curve, gradually you get into a groove, you cruise, and you slowly grow with the team. I think that's a big pro of getting permanent jobs. You get to develop deeper relationships with your colleagues. You can get involved in the local community and build your recognition, and there's more potential for mentorship. On the other hand, the cons of getting a permanent job, you risk the potential of getting too comfortable. And that depends on your character and if you're actively seeking out learning opportunities. And another one, if you compare it to picking up travel contracts, permanent jobs don't pay as well. And let's take a look at scenario 2. In the same 1-year window, you start a job, hit the learning curve, get into a groove, and then you have to switch 4 times. And besides getting paid a little bit more and being able to travel the country, and you also get to meet 4 times the number of therapists, and just getting more exposure to more different therapists and seeing how they treat. Naturally, you can take some of that and learn some tips and tricks. And the cons of that would be the downsides of just relocating so often. Like, you're never really settled into one place, and relationships are very transient because you're always moving around. You may be away from family, and it's very hard for you to develop roots in your community. And also, I think it takes a certain personality for you to have to go through that learning process over and over again. You have to be okay with change all the time. Regardless of picking up permanent jobs or doing contracts, I think you are responsible for your own growth as a clinician, because I think there are definitely pros in both scenarios. I think in both scenarios, you can experience tremendous growth, but just solely looking at the 12-month window, by doing travel therapy, you simply get to see more. And through seeing more, you have the potential to learn more. This was just a little thought experiment of mine. Picking up travel contracts is definitely not for everyone. And I don't plan on doing travel forever, because I think there's something special about becoming part of the community and growing with a team with a permanent job. I don't think there's one correct answer or choice. I think it depends on your individual situation and preferences, but I hope you found this helpful. These were just some of my thoughts. If you like this type of content, like and subscribe, and there's more to come.